Because Capital Ford is celebrating 60 years in business, we're holding a very special signature sales event where we're rolling out our strongest offers of the year on every new Ford car, truck, and SUV in stock, like a new 2025 Ford Bronco Sport. Lease today for just $399 a month or 0% APR for 60 months, plus no payments for 90 days on a new 2025 Ford F-150. But hurry, this signature sales event is for a limited time at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Welcome in to another live edition of the Pit Press Live Sunday Special. I am your host for this evening, owner of the Pit Press, Eric Moulton, and this evening joined by a few guests. We got one backstage and the one and only Ed Nunez, voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs and a Lobo fan since 1970. Ed, what's up, man? How are you doing?
Doing great, Eric. You know, last night I saw you and Nick sitting on press row, and I decided to go with my wife, and I'm glad we did. We had great seats, great atmosphere, a whiteout game, announced 13,000. I thought the pit, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, had a great effect on the game. You know, Dave Bliss back in the day would always talk about pit games. We need a pit game. That was the pit game last night for sure, and a convincing win over a very good Santa Clara team coming in.
Yeah, well, you got Nick Nunez joining us backstage, trying to get his mic situation figured out. But we're also lucky enough to be joined by the one and only Mackenzie Bishop. Mackenzie's been a friend of the show, been a longtime friend, alumni of the University of New Mexico, big part of the 505 Sports Venture Foundation, and also associated with the Lobo Alliance. Mac, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, it's good to be here. Just put the little one down. Got some. Notice I got some spit up on the black shirt. So my almost 7-month old is leaving an indelible mark on Lobo fandom, as she should be. So
Welcome
good
to
to be here.
the Girl
Thank
Dad, the Girl Dad fan club.
That's right. I love to be it.
Yeah, well, we're going to jump right into it. Just some kind of news and notes around UNM sports and the Mountain West. But Lobo women actually came up with a big win today on the road at Arizona, finishing or squeaking out 170-69. They were led by guard Alyssa Hargrove, who finished with 16 points. Destiny Hooks finished with 10, and Joanna Magnus finished with 9 points. And I'm not sure if I pronounced her name right there. But some other notes and news to go around. I really want to jump into it from the get-go and start talking about Lobo hoops, and then we'll kind of wrap up with more Lobo football, as they were just selected to go into the Rate Bowl in Phoenix. That game will be played on December 26th. I think it's 2:30 in the afternoon. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but
2:30 New Mexico and Arizona time. Yes, sir.
yeah, and you already booked your flights. It looked like, just saw you tweeted something there, kind of right after the game was announced. But happening in the Lobo world. But let's talk Lobo hoops. Ed, I'm going to kick it over to you, man. I know you kind of gave us a quick intro or your initial analysis of the game last night. Pit atmosphere was definitely back, but what kind of stood out from you from our personnel performances? I think Dayton Albury finished with 22 points, game high. But what was your kind of take on maybe this Lobo team kind of finding their footing finally?
It was going to be a physical challenge. I thought my son wrote a great preview about the game, and it whetted my appetite when I was like, okay, this Santa Clara team had beat Nevada, had beaten Xavier and beaten them soundly. Now they were without one of their better players, one of their leading assist guys and rebounders, and you have to go with what brung you here, and they came in, like I said, with a great record. But New Mexico held them to 26 of 69 from the field, and they were lethal three-point shooters. They shot 10 of 44 last night. New Mexico, 12 steals. Albury, 22 points, 6 assists. Thomas Bullion, 16 and 10. And Tanette, I thought Antonio Chol, 3 of 5 from three-point land, 13 points. Uriah Tanette hit some big shots. But 2 shots by Chris Howell. And, they kicked it back out to him, and I thought those were key shots because people have been on him about not shooting the three, not being able to shoot the three, and he shot them with confidence. Catch, shoot, wide open, boom. So I thought Albury did a great job of getting to talk about paint touches. He got in the paint and either scored, went to the line, or kicked it back out. And, I mean, you couldn't have asked for the offense to be run any better. They've talked about it all year long. Drive and kick. Last night, I think that was probably the most efficient. They shot 9 of 23 from 3 and got no contribution from Jake Hall. He had a tough night. He had some wide open looks. One of them hit the side of the backboard, and the other one was a total miss. And shooters will have nights like that. He'll get back on the horse and have better nights ahead. The other guy I was impressed with, and Kenny Thomas and I have been talking about this on his show, is JT Rock. He had 11 points, 4 of 4 from the field to go along with 6 rebounds. And remember, he didn't play very much at Iowa last year. He hasn't had a lot of experience. So Kenny, the postmaster, Kenny was one of the great post players here that we ever had. It takes a little while to develop, I think, confidence in the post. 2 tips last night, a drop step, left-hander finish. He looked physical in there. There was a presence there. So I think going forward, if him and Bullion, tag team a little bit, Bullion, man, he took the ball up the floor. They were talking about Santa Clara's pressure. That wasn't a factor. New Mexico's pressure on the ball in the backcourt was a factor. I thought Albury stealing the ball a couple times. Tanette's on the ball pressure disrupted their offense. So I thought all in all, 50-28, UNM outscores Santa Clara in the paint. So I thought it was a total. They cut it to 1, and then UNM, they had runs of 11-0, 12-0, and 10-0. So I thought they closed it out really well, and it was the most impressive win of the season by far. And so I think, Eric, I think I couldn't have been happier. And then seeing the whiteout, seeing all the fans there, a pit game. So I was very pleased.
Yeah, we got Nick joining us now finally. You want to try to test your mic there, Nick, just to make sure you're with us, and I can follow up Mac's question with yours. Are you all good to go?
Yeah, good evening, guys. Glad to be with you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Good.
Yes, sir.
Hey,
right on.
Mac, going to put you on the spot now. It's been a while since you've been on, man, and glad I was able to run into you at the pit following the game. But you've kind of seen the development of this team since the offseason. I think you've been kind of behind the scenes and just seen them kind of build and figure out what is the roster going to look like, what guys are going to play well together, chemistry, things like that. What is your overall impression or analysis from like the summer when these guys finally got on campus to where they're at now? I mean, are you starting to see things fit together more nicely fit now?
Well, I think one of the most important things to understand is like this roster has never played in the pit before. They've never played together before. They've never played for this staff before, August or July of this year. And really, you can't replicate game time speed and game time feel and fans in the stands and the pace and the just the jitters, you can't replicate those things in practice. And it looked like we've had 15 dudes on this roster, 14 scholarship guys who have never shot a ball in the pit with a crowd in it. And what I would say is last night was really cool to watch. I know everybody, it was very enjoyable basketball, really well played game at both facets. And obviously that's easy to say when we're getting stops, they're turning the ball over, we're getting easy looks, we're finishing fast breaks and making threes. Like, yes, when success is happening, it's easy to say that, yeah, this is what it's supposed to be about. But I would say um, what I saw last night personally is what I've been seeing all summer. That's the brand of basketball they want to play. They don't want to just take threes, without discretion. They want to take threes that are open, and they want to take threes in spots where Chol gets to step into a three and not, be moving from the side. And they want to catch Jake in spots where, I think there's so much of where they're just really trying to figure out this roster and figure out the spots that, each of these guys can succeed. And one thing I will say is I will say this coaching staff and it starts with Coach Olin, they're bright. They know what each guy is doing, what each guy is good at, what each guy is not good at, and they are working diligently to build and evolve their system to put those dudes in positions where they can succeed and really score and defend at a very efficient and effective level. And so it was just cool to see for them to finally have that culminate last night. And obviously, we're not going to shoot that way every night. We're not going to have a team on the other end of it who matches up the way that they did and try to defend us in the way that they did. But it worked really well last night, and we beat a really good team in front of 13,000 plus fans. So that was really fun, and Lobo basketball really needed that.
Hey, I'm going to ask you one more question, and I'm going to kick some questions over to Nick and get his analysis. But just how close you are to the program, you kind of understanding with recruiting and when this team was first assembled, guys' names are being thrown around. I think kind of the marquee piece of what Lobo fans were familiar with was Staten Albury, right? Like once he signed, it was like, okay, we got a really good guard coming. He's gonna be the centerpiece of it all. But one name that people weren't as familiar with was Bullion. And
Hmm.
has he been kind of an understatement and a pleasant surprise just with his durability, his strength, his experience? He's basically averaging a double double now. But what did you guys know about him? And then kind of in the early stages of the recruitment process and maybe him visiting campus, did you guys kind of feel like this guy can be a dude and kind of be a big focal point for this team? And I don't know if you guys or the staff or anyone else close to the program really anticipated him having as big of a role as he does.
Well, I can't speak, real intimately about the early stages or that that Tomislav was part of their vision from an early get-go. But I do know one of the things that's amazing about how Coach Olin and the staff has really tried to build this roster, and they're looking to even build next year's roster, is they're very disciplined about the roles that they have, about what they need in order to run the system and run the sets that they want to run. And so they have a typecast, and they're trying to recruit to that. And they have slots that they're eager to fill, and those slots also have budgets associated with them. And so Coach Olin has a lot of discipline when it comes to building the roster. What I will say about Tomislav, I met him on the day before he started live practice. He was still going through the clearinghouse. I met him at the facility, and just meeting him, he's not a freshman, right? I know we're calling him that, but he is an incredibly physical and imposing guy. You can see what he's doing on the glass, but I think what's really exceeded everybody's expectations is his ability to handle the ball. Obviously, he's taking the ball up sometimes as matchups present themselves. We saw that a lot last night. They were pressing full court 1 through 5, and they found an opportunity for Tomislav to be handling the ball in that. But in addition to that, I would say he's an incredible passer, and I don't know that the staff really appreciated how good of a passer he was. Sometimes it's hard to tell that on film, and as systems change and they're putting him in different positions and asking him to make different reads. But I would just say Tomislav has a really good knack for how to cut, where to be, and also when he's got the ball in his hands, what other people are doing. And he's certainly been a revelation. He's not your typical five. I think we can all agree.
Yeah. Nick, welcome to the show, man. I wanted to get your analysis. You actually wrote a really nice piece that's featured on the website. If you guys listening, viewing the show, check out our website, thepitpressnm.com. We have a lot of pregame previews, recaps, some features coming on Lobo Athletics, and Nick's actually a really involved contributor to the site, and he wrote a nice preview and recap of the game. But Nick, I sat with you on press row for most of the game last night. What was your overall take and how they looked?
I thought they executed the game plan really well, Eric. Coach Olin talked about it in the post-game press conference. Santa Clara is a team that likes to pressure the basketball off the rebound, bringing the ball up the floor. And I thought Dayton Albury, Uriah Tenet, pretty much anybody who secured a defensive possession, whether it was a rebound or a steal, did a really good job of just pushing the ball in transition. UNM finished with 29 fast break points, and they outscored Santa Clara 50-28 in the paint. Considering the personnel that Santa Clara had, they had a 7'1" center, Obuye, and they had another guy, Alan Graves, 6'9", some really good shot blockers. I mean, Santa Clara was top 10 in the country in shot blocking. I think they were 7th, and they finished the game with 1 block. And so UNM did a really good job of attacking the paint. Jake Hall had an off night. I don't think we'll see too many more of those kinds of nights from him. But they got some really good shooting from Antonio Chol. He was 3 for 5 from deep. Uriah Tenet, 3 for 5 from deep. And Chris Howell, it was really nice to see him have a good game shooting the ball. He came into this game 1 for 14 from the 3-point line and knocked down 2 of them early. So overall, Eric, I thought they executed the game plan really well.
Hey, Ed, I'm going to kick this one over to you. I think there was a comment brought up. I'm going to bring it up now. Just on the overall depth of this team, Eric Markham, a guy who watches our show, pretty much tunes into everyone, and he chimes in. We appreciate that. But he says, Ed, that the Lobos have real depth this year, and coach really knows how to utilize and develop it. In your early analysis, when we started talking on the show, you mentioned JT Rock seeing a lot of significant minutes in this one, and him being a little bit more assertive on the scoring end. I would think that more minutes are probably deserved more down the line, but this is something that this Lobo team has not had in the past, is depth at that big man spot. But what do you have to say about that? Because I know that you hold that position pretty passionate to what you played and what you might be familiar with. But what can you say about the depth on the front court position?
First of all, big shout out to Eric and his dad, Bruce. They're big fans of the Pit Press. I've had a chance to talk to both of them off the show. They're really, really good dudes. I think it's funny, Eric. I played a forward in high school, but later I played a lot of inside ball, man. And I learned, I was only 6'1", but I learned how to play post up, and I love playing inside. I mean, I still like to play outside a little bit, but I think Milos Vasetic didn't even get off the bench until the game was out of hand. Tomeo Pones didn't play much, but they played Patton. They played TJ Rock a lot off the bench. Uriah Tenet came off the bench. So I think going forward, and I think Mackenzie, you make a good point about the team not playing in a system against air, against nobody in the stands. And when you have 13,000 fans, it's a little bit different. They've heard about the Pit. All the players had said that they wanted to play here for a reason. And last night, man, I thought, and Albury said it, the fans got them going. They wanted to get those runs going, we've all played with adrenaline, man. Eric, you played a championship, son. You played against Espanola when you were a junior, and there's 13,000 fans there, man. I played, and I officiated a game in the Pit with Hobbs and Clovis, the state championship with 14,000 people there, man. So we've all played with that. Adrenaline is something, and so I think the Pit had a lot to do with that. But going back to your question about depth, if they look at the way they played last night, and when it comes together, it's beautiful. People have been on them about their 3-point shooting. They hadn't shot it well. They shot efficiently. The guy that impressed me was Antonio Chol. And I think Mackenzie, you make a good point there too. Stepping into a three, don't force it. He shot within the offense. It was beautiful. That's what they need from him. That's what he can do. He's a slasher too. I'd like to see him attack a little bit more at the rim. We saw that early in the season when he had 2 dunks, rim rattlers, and the fans went nuts. Pitt fans love that. We know that. They love their dunks. But Bouillon is another guy. The guy sells out. He's on the floor. He's strong. He's asserting himself in the post more and more. And then if like you said, Mac, if they press him, he can take the ball off the floor and he can pass the ball, man. He's not one-dimensional, not at all. So I think that helps them when they're pressuring the guards. He can take it up, and he's 6'10". So a great win, just a great win. And I think, Eric, you're going to see more and more of that depth. I still think Patton Jr. is a guy that is only scratching the surface. Last night we didn't get as much out of him as they had in the last couple of games. He's athletic. He can jump. He's just finding his way, man. He's a freshman. Let's remember, Hall's a freshman. Bouillon is, Kenny told me that the other night. He's like, hey, man, the guy's 22. I was 18 when he broke that record. And he's right about that. Bouillon is a man. He's a man already, man. So I think that coming together last night for all the things that Coach Olin had talked about, read and react, that's what they wanted to do. And nobody did it better last night than Albury. Gosh, he played a great game. So I think the depth is going to become even more, Eric, as these guys get to play more and develop. We said that about TJ Rock. He was raw. And the only thing I saw last night, I was telling my son, he needs to get a little bit lower when blocking out. He doesn't have that instinct yet. He will. Shot goes up, find your man, carve some space out, block out. But I thought he played a heck of a game for the minutes that he got, and you're going to see him get some more minutes if he plays big, and he did last night. So I think the depth is going to be something UNM is going to be able to count on.
Hey, Mac, when you first jumped on, I obviously kind of alluded to Albury being the marquee piece in all of it in the transfer portal and kind of rebuilding this team. But I guess my perspective inside of things is he just seemed a little sped up early on in the season, still kind of figure out the offense when is it the right time to penetrate versus kind of work the offense. But last night we really saw him kind of take off and almost looked unguardable at times. But what have you seen from his overall evolution within this offense? Maybe him kind of working more closely within Eric Olin's design and of the offense, and then also kind of working alongside some of these guards that, like you mentioned, that these guys have not played together very long. But I mean, what was your take on how he played last night? And do you think this is more of something we should get used to?
Well, first I'll just say, and Dayton talked about it in the post-game radio show. I thought DA finished last night, and that's something that he really hasn't done as well as he nor apparently his mom would like him to do. He was getting to the rim and he was actually converting those. But what I would say is, I just want to kind of piggyback a little bit on what Ed just said. The whole goal is to get this where it's muscle memory and you can read and react. And I feel like the first 7-10 games of this year, a lot of the guys are reading, thinking, and then reacting, and it's slowing them down. They're leaving their feet to make passes and making bad passes. They're taking shots that they shouldn't be. They're passing up shots that they should be. There's just a whole lot of this, like, trying to understand what my role is, what I'm supposed to do. And you bring up DA, and I think last night was the first night where it's like he made the right reads. He penetrated when he was supposed to. He swung the ball when he was supposed to. He tried to finish. He dished. Like, he just was playing basketball and wasn't thinking about what coach wanted him to do or what his role is. And I think as these guys continue, DA included, continue to just immerse themselves in the offense, continue to further understand, and really just where it becomes a second language to them of what they're supposed to do, because this is a complicated offense and defense. There's a lot of thinking that's involved at both ends of the court. But as the guys get more accustomed and more comfortable to both sides of the ball and both ends of the court from a system standpoint, we're going to start to see the shooting percentage increase, the finishing percentage increase, We're not going to foul as much. We're gonna get the right reads on defense. I mean, you're just starting to see just the evolution of what they're trying to do, and it just takes time with a bunch of new guys who've never played this system before, save Chris Howell and Milos.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, your article was pretty much spot on with kind of the defensive mentality, on how the Lobos played last night. They were the aggressor for the most part of the game. They were really assertive and picking up guards full court. But with Albury, right, being able to finish with 22 points, I also felt like he was the catalyst for kind of anchoring that defense and setting the tone early. What was your take there? And I mean, you played the guard position, so you understand that picking up another guard full court and being able to play that many minutes can take a toll on you. But how do you think he played defensively, and how do you think it set the tone for kind of the whole game?
I was super impressed with his versatility, not just on the offensive end, but on the defensive end. I mean, he was picking up Elijah Mahi, who was the 6'7" small forward, 220 pounds. He was picking him up full court and being really physical with him. And Albury said in the post-game press conference that he just wanted to be a defensive menace, that he told the team that we need to punch first. We know Santa Clara is going to be a physical team. And I thought UNM early on, they matched their physicality right away. I mean, I don't know if you were there with me, but at the first media timeout, right around the 16-minute mark, the score was 4-4. And it was just like a slugfest. It was just a defensive slugfest. Dayton Albury finished the game with 3 steals. He certainly led the charge, but UNM had 12 steals, Eric. That's 12 live ball turnovers they forced that led to a lot of transition opportunities for the Lobos. But it wasn't just him, man. I think everybody contributed on the defensive end of the floor. There was one guy for Santa Clara that got going, Christian Hammond, number 1. He finished with 22 points. He had a stretch late in the first half where he really got some buckets. But other than that, I didn't think their defense struggled at all. I mean, Santa Clara shot 38% from the field and I think under 20% from the three-point line. So it was just all around a really impressive defensive effort.
Hey, Ed, I want to ask you this next question. And I've been one to be a little, I guess you can say, kind of critical of the playing style, or maybe just the expectation of being really too high, maybe for a guy like Antonio Chol, right? He came in with some accolades, man. He was a junior college All-American, right? Had a season at Rutgers. He was highly sought out as a high school senior. So he comes in and you're like, this guy's going to be an instant impact player. We haven't necessarily seen him kind of take that next step to completely take over a game or anything like that. I'm not sure if that's kind of in his repertoire, but last night he saw just about 30 minutes, finished with a solid 13 points, knocked down 3 threes, but he only took 5 of them. And I think he's been a little loose in his shot selection up to this point, but last night he was very selective and he was impactful. He rebounded the ball. He kind of fit within the office. But what has your impression been from, I guess, early on in the off season, kind of seeing him firsthand at some of the open practices to kind of where he is at now, and where does his ceiling sit with you? I mean, your personal opinion.
Kenny Thomas and I go in twice a week with him on his show Unfiltered. And we've talked about that. In my opinion, I think they need 12 to 15 points every game from him. He's got to take at least 10 to 12 shots. And again, last night, Max said it was within the flow. He did it. He's not forcing it. There's a couple of games I saw him force the action. And last night, everybody ate, man. Everybody ate because Albury set the table. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It really was. I don't know what Albury's plus minuses were. But, man, it had to be off the chart.
35.
Okay.
35.
There you go. 35. Okay. Because, when they needed – again, he's driving – and my son did a great job on that preview. So I'm thinking, how is he going to drive in the paint with those trees there? They block shots at a pretty decent rate. He's going to have a hard time. He didn't. And I thought, again, they got tired in the second half. After they made that run, they were zipped. They didn't have any legs left. It might have been the altitude. I thought New Mexico ran them the heck out of the dang building is what happened. That's what happened. So you got to give me, but the other thing I got to say is it's a challenge, now if you're the coach, Eric Olin is kind of a mellow guy. I could see Mike Roberts, the assistant, saying, look, they're going to come here and punch you in your mouth. How are you going to respond? I could see that. We went to practice one time, and Coach Roberts is he had me laughing, man, because he's the guy that's yelling and saying, "You're not doing this." So someone said that, and we all played. And I know that when I got a challenge like that, I'm like, all right, let's Nick, you play for Coach Segura. Coach Segura challenged you a lot. Eric, you play for Coach Armendariz, right? And Coach Armendariz, I still remember him yelling at me when I reffed, man, with his big old bigote, man. I still remember that. He would get on you, man. Coach Armendariz would get on you. So how are you going to respond? This is your house. I don't know what the speech was said. I coached before. I know what I would have said. And I could see Coach Roberts saying that and Coach Olin chiming in. This is your house. How are you going to respond? They're more physical than you. What are you going to do? And New Mexico came out and responded and kicked their butt. Let's be honest. That's what they did. They kicked their butt, man. And it was beautiful to see because it's beautiful basketball. They shared the ball. They made timely plays. And if you didn't enjoy that, man, you're not a fan. Believe me, I've watched tons of Lobo games in the pit. That was one of the most enjoyable games I ever saw because they played the right way, man. They stole the ball. They passed the ball. They assisted. They played hard. They're on the floor. Pitt fans love that 50-50 loose ball diving. They love that. We saw a couple of dunks. Bouillon, that guy's, man, he's really asserting himself. So, that's where I'm looking at, Eric. I thought last night was a solid win for this program. And like Max said, things are coming together. It takes time to get this. We said this about Coach Olin when he was at UCSD last. You remember, they almost beat Michigan in the opening round of the tournament. There's a couple of and look at the and Nick, you did some good job of cutting up film of that team. Look where they're at. This is the early part of the season, but that game there, that's something to build on. That really is. They felt confident last night, and I think Antonio Chol, Eric, is only going to get better. I really do. I think that's kind of a game where he feels like I'm comfortable doing what I can do. People found me, and I shot shots like Mackenzie said. I didn't pass them up. I shot the shots that were for me. Boom, hit them. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, well, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll come back, kick it back over to Mackenzie. I have some questions lined up for you regarding Uriah Tenet and a true freshman, which in today's college basketball or even college athletics landscape is what he's doing now is kind of, I wouldn't say unheard of, but it's pretty exceptional to watch. And before we cut it to commercial break, I do want to address a question that had come in. Many of our viewers, listeners have noticed that Ryan hasn't been on the show probably since August, September.
I think September.
So yeah, he actually decided to step away from the pit press and focus on other things like his career and his family. So we respected that, and the people that are still very focused on this are still very much a part of it, and we're wanting to continue growing it and to continue to expose UNM and talk about the programs. And it's a awesome time to be around with how football has kind of turned a corner and actually started to get a lot of national recognition, and we're peak basketball season. So we do not plan on slowing down one bit, but yeah, it was his choice to step away, and we respected that, but we're
Eric,
going to keep this thing moving forward. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to let everybody know he's okay. There's, as far as we know, he's fine. A couple of people have asked, concerned about him as a person, and he's fine that we know of. So there's nothing, nothing personal at all. Like you said, you explained it right, but I just want everybody to know, as far as we know, he's just fine.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back. Give us like 30 seconds, and I have some questions for Mac.
Because Capital Ford is celebrating 60 years in business, we're holding a very special signature sales event where we're rolling out our strongest offers of the year on every new Ford car, truck, and SUV in stock, like a new 2025 Ford Bronco Sport. Lease today for just $399 a month or 0% APR for 60 months, plus no payments for 90 days on a new 2025 Ford F-150. But hurry, this signature sales event is for a limited time at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
All right, welcome back to the Pit Press Live. We're going to jump right back into it. Mac, before we went to commercial break, I kind of teed it up for you about talking about Uriah, and really just kind of like a strong freshman class. Obviously, two guys that carried a lot of weight at the high school ranks. I think Uriah had over 3,000 points in his high school career, and Jake Hall was just under 3,000. But guys who can definitely fill it up, and guys that maybe didn't get as much love from the recruiting ranks as maybe they deserved. A lot could be said about maybe they were too small or lacked the athleticism. But these are two guys that kind of fit Olin's program really well and kind of fit his design and his methodology, and two guys that had committed to UC San Diego and followed him to UNM. But I want to focus first on Uriah's game. When he stepped foot on campus, and you got a good look at him, I think the highlight reels on YouTube and Instagram, his ability to jump out of the gym was what kind of people saw, or the first thing that they kind of reacted to when they got introduced to him. But he's kind of been a staple in this offense, and he's shown that he can clearly run an offense, handle some of the pressure, and has been one of the most stable guys that you want. And he's only a freshman, a true freshman at that. So what can you say about Uriah Tenet, and maybe some flashes of Jalen House a little bit? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, watching him in the offseason, he was like, to me, he was Jalen with hops, right? And I think a lot of people have been throwing that out. But he's a different player in other ways. I would say, the first thing I would say about both Jake and Uriah is just poise. To have that level of poise at the guard position from both of them, and they're very different guards, right? But to have that level of poise as freshmen, true freshmen, high school freshmen, in this day and age is unbelievable, right? And how do guys like that come here first year of a new class? Yeah, I mean, I would say Uriah is probably undersized, and that's what held him back. Certainly, you can't question the athleticism. The dude knows how to score. He's an incredible shooter, finisher. He has a 42 or 43-inch vertical. Like those are elite power forward level skills and attributes. And the only thing that's holding him back is his size. And Jake's, in a different way, he's got size, but he doesn't have as much athleticism. But what I would say about both of them, and truly, really the entire roster, is they're both really just good freaking basketball players. Like, they understand angles, they understand patience, they understand, you know, angles and how to get into places where they're not supposed to. They know how to pick their spots. They have great shot selection. Like, they're just really good ballers. They're hoopers. And you know, in contrast to last year, and we had incredible athletes, and we had truly all Americans, right? We had a line of all Americans that went through our program over 3 years, and but behind that, we didn't have a ton of depth. And even in that, if teams took away stuff from us, we had a really hard time adapting on the fly. And last night you saw it. They got within 1 point, and we could have called the timeout, but Coach Olin was like, let it run. And Chris Howell finds Tomislav on a backdoor cut, and he dunks it. And so not to take focus away from Uriah and Jake, both of them are just incredible freshmen. But I would just say one thing that's united, and one thing I was taken away, really blown away by in the offseason, is just the overall basketball IQ, and just the level of just hoop IQ that this entire team possesses, and it starts with those freshmen.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, when we had I guess, a short conversation about mid-game about Uriah and Albury, because they were seeing a lot of minutes together. And for most of the season, it's kind of been Jake Hall who has started, and right, it's him and Albury kind of at the 1-2 spot. But we're starting to see Tenet kind of fit in more at that 2 spot, but they can alternate kind of to Mackenzie's point where they both can run the point. But how do you see their chemistry as like the 1-2 guard kind of developing? Right, both lightning quick guys. I think Dayton's got a little bit more of a finishability to his game, but they're looking for each other on the floor. And you could see that when Alberry is getting into those lanes, he's looking to kick out. And I think twice last night he found Jeanette on the perimeter. He makes both threes. And like they're just looking for each other. The chemistry is starting to develop. What can you say about that? And what are you recognizing on the floor from just kind of the overall guard play?
I think Uriah Tenet has the ability to play off the ball on offense, which plays to his advantage. DA, I think, has to have the ball in his hands more. Uriah is more of a threat shooting the basketball from the three-point line. We've seen Coach Olin go to that lineup a lot where Tenet and Alberry are on the floor together. And he said that at, I think, multiple post-game press conferences that these are two guys that we think can play together. Uriah, very impressed with his basketball IQ. You'll see out of their offensive scheme that they run, a lot of the time he'll be the one initiating the ball screen. He'll set a ball screen and then pick and pop. He's a really good finisher in transition. You saw that multiple times last night against Santa Clara. So despite their size, Dayton Alberry being 6'1" and Uriah Tenet being 5'10", if he's lucky, those two guys can play on the floor together. And the other thing, Eric, I think the defensive scheme that UNM plays, whether they're switching man-to-man or playing in that matchup zone, anybody who thinks they can tell what they're doing all the time, I think is a liar. But they're able to keep those two guys on the floor because they help so much in the paint. And, on the offensive end, they complement each other really well. We'd have to look at kind of what the plus-minus is floor together. I haven't looked at that yet. But we've seen them on the floor together a lot. Uriah, again, plays really well off the ball. So I think it's a lineup that they can continue to go to as the season goes on.
Yeah, and Eric, I just want to add to, I thought yesterday, and Nick just kind of hit on it too. A lot of that lineup was based on what they were doing defensively. I know Jake had an off night, but the ball pressure, full court ball pressure, and the hard closeouts really catered to people that could slash and get to the rim. And those were the guys that were making stuff happen. And so having both of those guys on the floor, and they were pressing full court the whole time, just made sense. And I was really, it's cool to see a guy like Uriah who, this is his 9th Division I basketball game, dealing with that kind of ball pressure, full court ball pressure the whole time. I don't even know how many minutes he played. You guys have the stats in front of you, but
30.
For a freshman to play 30 minutes at point guard with that kind of ball pressure, full court ball pressure is unbelievable. And I don't know how many turnovers he had, but I don't think he had many. He maybe had 1 or 2. So he was phenomenal last night, just in terms of being poised with the basketball, doing what the offense was giving to him, making open shots. I mean, he played like a sophomore, junior, or senior, certainly not like a freshman.
I think it's if you don't mind me making a point to that, I think that's a really good point, because you look at Tenet, he's a freshman. Jake Hall's a freshman. Chris Howell is a junior. Is he a junior? He's a junior, I think. And then Bullion, a freshman, but he has experience. And then Antonio Chol. So the lineup they had last night, a good mix. And they really played well. And you would have thought with two small guards like that Santa Clara might be able to take advantage with the ball pressure. I think Alberry set the stage early with an early steal and a layup, and that was really, laid the ground for what was going to happen the rest of the game. It didn't stop. When Kenny and I were texting, he said at the start of the second half, Santa Clara's not done, and they cut it to 1. And after that, New Mexico exploded, man. They exploded. So all the right lineups last night, all the right moves, man, all the right everything for UNM. And people were waiting to see when there were so many people after they lost to Nebraska. Gosh, man, Lobo fans can be some of the most right. They can be. And, oh, man, this isn't going to work. And, oh, Coach Olin, oh, my gosh,
why did we hire this guy? Let's
right.
It's crazy.
Give it time, right? Be patient.
Crazy.
We saw it last night. It was, they're 6-2 now, or 7-2, I think, or they've won 4 in a row, undefeated at home. Yeah, and people are going to say they didn't play the tough schedule that UNM did last year, but this is a new system and a new coach, and I can understand why they did what they did. But I got to ask you guys something. The question came up on Kenny's show last week. This guy, calls in, Robert. His name's Robert. He always has the most. He thinks about these questions, and then he'll say, "Oh, I'll hang up and wait for the answer." But he asked about a new arena, and I looked around last night, and I'm so nostalgic for the Pit, man, that I can't see ever. For me, I'm old though. I'm older. That place has got such a special feeling. How many Pit games, iconic Pit games, that have we all seen? So I don't know what you guys think about. And there's probably an arena that would be better in the future, but I can't see a Pit. I can't see that conversation for another 5 to 10 years, in my opinion. We can't hold an NCAA tournament right now because they can't fit the floor in, things like that. There would probably the roof doesn't hold certain things for concerts. There'd probably be a different arena, but I don't know what your guys' feeling was about that. Because when I looked around last night, I thought this place is just magical, man. I can't see it, but I'm older, way older than you guys, man, and you guys might have a different opinion.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a landmark, man. To me, that's very similar to like a Wrigley Field or a Fenway Park, or a Cameron Indoor Stadium like at Duke or something like that. It's irreplaceable, and it's a huge recruiting tool, and it's what people outside of New Mexico, outside of the program, kind of resonate towards. It's something that people want to visit. They want to go watch a UNM game because they want to see a game in the Pit. So, I mean, if you want to host an NCAA tournament here, you want the concert venue, you want to do all this and that, then build a multi-use facility downtown Albuquerque. Get on board with like the United or something. Like, it's just, to me, there's no way that this program operates without the Pit. My personal opinion, but I don't know, Mac, Nick, I don't know if you guys have a certain take on that, but there's no way this program moves forward without the Pit. Not anytime soon, anyways.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we've got a football stadium that's broken, needs fixing. So I can tell you there's no money currently forecast to be spent on the Pit in a meaningful way. There's a lot of money forecast to be spent across the street.
All right, I wanted to focus on some other guys that didn't see as many minutes last night, but I'm interested to know like this team's total upside, right? Like Mac just touched on it, Nick just touched on it, just with how the game played out last night, right? Like I don't know if you can roll out that lineup for every game because a lot of matchups take place. They're going to run into teams that have better guards, multiple guards, a deeper bench. I think Santa Clara was down one of their bigger pieces last night, but they just didn't seem like they had too many guards that could bring up the ball and execute the offense. They're big, yeah, they rebound, they shoot a lot of threes, but handling the ball, right? Like teams that win in March in the Big Dance have really good guard play. So a lot of it's going to be dictated by matchups. Now, I think the Lobos do have that. I think right now it's still a little unproven, but extra pieces, guys coming off the bench, guys like Kevin Patton and Luke Hopt, right? Luke Hopt saw 15 minutes last night, finished with 6 points, 4 rebounds. Kevin Patton finished with no points, had 3 rebounds. But when I told Nick last night, I feel really good about where Kevin Patton's game is going. Obviously, he's kind of shown that he's been able to score at the last school or the school he was at. It was San Diego before he was at USC, but he's got the ability. He's got the athletic ability. He's long, he's lengthy. He's been assertive on the rebounds, and the same with Luke Hopt. Luke Hopt is 6'7", more kind of fits that offensive structure where he's poised. He's not terribly athletic. He's not going to beat you on that first step, so he's not that quick. But these are guys who are going to kind of at least focus on the rebounds, kind of fit within that office, but both have a little bit of that scoring capability. So, Nick, I'm going to pass it over to you first, and then I'm going to come back and get Mac's response. But just kind of talking about those extra guys, right? The guys are going to spell you 10 to 15 minutes a game, like a Luke Hopt and a Kevin Patton. What do you think the ceiling is for those guys, and do you see them getting more into the mix as the season rolls forward?
I see Luke Hopt probably more so than most of the other guys right now, Eric. A lot of experience for Luke Hopt. You know, he came over from Division II, Point Loma Nazarene. Lefty, his size really makes him a mismatch for a lot of people that guard him. He's 6'7", 215 pounds. He's kind of built like a tight end, but he can handle the ball. He's a lefty. He's a really smart player. And I think it was against Mississippi State or against Nebraska sometime in the Hall of Fame Classic. He knocked down 2 threes. So I think if he's able to be a threat from the three-point line, that adds even more to his game. But Coach Olin has said, Luke Hopt is a very important part of what they're going to do. He's another glue guy like Chris Howell. Again, smart basketball player. He's going to play good defense. He's going to be matched up a lot of the time on the other team's best offensive scorer from the perimeter. So I think the ceiling for Luke Hopt is really high. He's going to be in the mix. He's going to see minutes. Kevin Patton Jr. had a really good game against Alabama State. I think he had 8 points off the board or off the bench. Really good rebounder. His athleticism, we saw him at the Lobo Howell, him and Uriah Tenet go head-to-head in that dunk contest matchup. But you see that translate into things in the game. Again, a really good offensive rebounder. I feel like almost every single game he grabs at least one offensive rebound. So I think his length and his athleticism gives him the ability to get onto the floor. I think, some games he's going to find his minutes and some games he's not. Last night, he was in there a couple times. He had a turnover. He had a 3 in the corner that just didn't fall. But I think he's going to be an important part of what they do too, Eric. And then, we talk about other guys off the bench. A guy that's really emerging is JT Rock. I know we've touched on him a little bit, but this is the second game in a row where he scores in double figures. And I just really liked his activity on the offensive glass. I think he had 3 tip-ins yesterday where he just was right under the basket, just a touch to tip it into the rim. I think he's really starting to come into his own as well. So the depth of this team is really good, Eric, and I share Mackenzie's sentiment. We're a lot deeper this year than we were in the Patino years.
Mac, I'm going to ask you the same question. Where do you see this team moving forward, and just some of the not so focal points, guys on the bench that can come in and fill some big minutes? What do you think?
Well, I would say, last night, Santa Clara really played into our hands. I would say their game plan, both defensively and offensively, they do what they do. And I just think that we neutralized what they do well, and they didn't adjust whatsoever. They let us get to the rim kind of at will, and that just created havoc for their entire defense. I mean, I think between DA and Uriah, they got to the rim probably, I don't know, 2/3 of every possession, and maybe didn't finish every single time, but kicked it out, and it just broke them down every single time. And I just don't know why they continue to extend ball pressure the way that they did. It sounds like there might be a drinking game about talking about ball pressure, but Santa Clara played into our hands well, and not everyone's going to do that. I think the teams that slow down and make sure that we have to play half court offense and have to run a full set and do what we do, I think those are going to be the teams where we struggle a little bit. But I do think long term, as our team continues to evolve and they understand their roles, and those key guys off the bench continue to get touches in the right places, as well as our key guys knowing when and how to exert their influence and attack the basket, or the spots that they need to get to, and getting the shots that they're most efficient at making. I do think that our half court offense is going to continue to evolve. So if we play as well as we did last night, and we get as many transition points as we did last night in the conference, we're not going to lose in the pit. I can tell you that much. That team's not losing to anybody in the Mountain West. That team was unbeatable in the Mountain West. But we're not going to get to play against teams playing the way that Santa Clara played us last night all year. Nevada's going to slow it down. San Diego State's going to be a rock fight like it always is. Colorado State might be a really fun game to watch. It's probably going to be, scored in the 90s. That'll be a really fun game to watch. Wyoming's going to be grinded out. There's a lot of just ground and pound teams in the Mountain West, and it's going to be really interesting to see how we adapt to that and score in the half court, especially on the road.
You make a really good point, Mac, and Santa Clara's game plan and really their failure to adjust kind of in game, because they were full court press. There's for 505 loop in, you can go ahead and take another shot, but they continued to press full court or pick up full court, and DA was breaking it by himself without having to create a pass. So by the time he was crossing half court, it was like a 3-on-2 break, and they were getting layups all day, and they just never stopped doing that, right? So they almost kind of did play into the Lobos game plan or just played into their strengths, where there might be some teams down the road, right, in the Mountain West that are more familiar with this program, and a guy like Dayton, they're not going to pick him up full court and they're going to make him beat him in the half court. And
Yeah,
the Lobos are going to have to
they'll play
figure
off
out.
of him,
Yep.
They'll sag off of him.
Now, I think Nick said something about that too, right? Like if Dayton really hasn't proved to be an efficient outside shooter yet. So if you kind of sag off him and just really prevent him from getting into the lane, maybe that's a way to kind of spell that a bit. But until they see it and they adjust, then time will tell. But you talked about some of the other Mountain West teams. I've been following some programs around. Colorado State's really good. They just knocked off an undefeated Colorado 8-0 team at home. Wyoming, who not really talked about that much, but they're off and running. They almost knocked off a Texas Tech team with JT Toppin, I want to say last week.
Yep.
Nevada.
What was that, a 4-point game, I think?
It was, yeah. Yeah, and I think they held the lead with like 4 points. They were up by 1. Yeah, super crazy. And then Utah State knocked off Charlotte tonight, I think. Boise State won at Butler yesterday. So there's been some good wins. There's also been some not so good losses for the Mountain West season, but I think it's pretty clear that it's going to be another exciting and unfortunate last season in the Mountain West. But so everyone kind of soak it up as you can. But I had a question for Nick, and then I spaced it. Do you guys have any other topics or questions you guys want to bring up before we transition over to Lobo football and the Rate Bowl?
I think I'm good.
Good. All right. All right, guys. Bowl-bound Lobos. Football. Jason X Lobos selected to the Rate Bowl in Phoenix today. I think a lot of people around Albuquerque, New Mexico were, I wouldn't say they were anticipating a New Mexico Bowl, but I think a lot of people were really hopeful for it. I don't know, but I think in my opinion, this is a little bit stronger of a bowl. They're going to be facing a Big Ten opponent, probably better for the program, right? Like get out of New Mexico and go play somewhere that's going to be inviting you. Definitely a program builder. Ed, I know that you had some conversations, I guess, off the record about just kind of how things unfolded and how the Lobos may have been chosen to be featured in the Rate Bowl. Do you want to share some of that?
I think a couple of I was texting with Dontrell Moore today, and a friend of mine that played for the New Mexico in the 80s. A couple of I think teams in the Big Ten said no, I believe, to the Rate Bowl, so that let New Mexico gave them a chance to participate in that bowl game. I was a little surprised, I guess, and I was telling Mac that Kansas State and Iowa State declined to go to bowls. That's how New Mexico got into the Rate Bowl, according to one of my friends. But I think we haven't seen them play in a bowl since 2016, so I just figured it was going to be the New Mexico Bowl. In the paper today, Sean Ryder rated the New Mexico Bowl as a 9 chance. The Rate Bowl was a 0. He had that rated as a 0. Now, I'm not blaming him, man, or saying that he was wrong. I don't know that. I think those two teams saying no, open the door. But one of my friends said too, though, it's going to help them recruiting in Phoenix. They got the Ward 6 kids from the suburban area alone signed with UNM on that. So I think it'll help recruiting tremendously. And they're going to play Minnesota 7-5 and 5-4. They've got some good wins. They beat Rutgers. They lost to Ohio State 42-3. They did not play Indiana. They beat Purdue. They beat Nebraska. They lost to Oregon. They beat Northwestern. So I think it's a different challenge. I'm glad it's the New Mexico Bowl would have been great too. Jeff Symbieta does a great job at the New Mexico Bowl. They've got he's got a great San Diego State and North Texas State in his bowl. So I think it's great. I think it's a great thing. My son and I are figuring out a way how we can get there. I would love to go to that bowl game. I know Nick's not going to travel on Christmas. He's got a little one. I won't either, but maybe we'll figure it out. But I think it's a great opportunity. I really do. That surprised me a little bit, but a good surprise. And Dontrell Moore said the same thing. Hey, he said it's great for recruiting. It's going to help New Mexico. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, Mac, you were pretty vocal on Twitter. I think you booked your flights 5 minutes after that bowl game was announced. Tell me how you feel about them being chosen for that bowl game and maybe not getting into the New
Well,
Mexico Bowl, which everyone anticipated.
I'm with Sean. The Rate Bowl was certainly not on my radar whatsoever. I thought Arizona Bowl or potentially Armed Forces Bowl would be in play. What I'll say is I think it absolutely was prompted by both Notre Dame and Iowa State passing up on bowl games. These bowls kind of have a waterfall structure associated with them, and people get first choice, and if they pass over, then the next people get the next choice. And I think the reason the matchup in the New Mexico Bowl is so good is because they got to choose some folks too. So that being said, I think it's awesome that we were chosen among all of the potential Mountain West schools to be in this game. I think our fans and being so close and the potential of getting 10 to 15,000 folks to actually show up to the game was a big part of it. But I also think the way that we played against Power Four schools this year. A common opponent that we have with Minnesota is Michigan. Obviously, that didn't go the way we wanted it to go, but Minnesota lost to Michigan 52-10. So I really like our chances. I think we have an opportunity to play well in this game, and truly, I actually feel pretty confident that we are going to win this game. So we have a lot to play for. We have a coaching staff and a roster full of guys that still have a chip on their shoulder and feel like they got cheated out of the Mountain West Championship and have a lot to prove. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity to showcase our program and our fan base. And hell, Phoenix in December is pretty freaking awesome. It's nice and warm, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, Nick, when we were talking about when I think the news first broke, you were a little disappointed it wasn't the New Mexico Bowl. What what's your feeling
Yeah.
like, and how do you feel about the Rate Bowl?
Yeah, I can see why a lot of Lobo fans would want one more game in University Stadium, considering that we were 6-0 at home this year. But Eric, I think we set the football team off really well. An announced crowd of over 30,000 people that really got into the game for the first time. And Dad, Mackenzie, you guys can speak to that. The last time a crowd like that was really into the game. I know the New Mexico Bowl in 2015 when we played Arizona, I went to that. There was a pretty good crowd there. But man, other than that, there's been less than a handful of times where we've had a crowd that's really gotten into the game. So the more I've thought about it, Eric, I think this is a good bowl game for UNM to get into. Obviously, the quality of the opponent is good. And then the geographical proximity that Phoenix is in to Albuquerque, I mean, it's a 6.5-hour drive. If you don't want to travel on Christmas, get up at 5:30, 6 a.m., make the drive over to Phoenix. You can get there an hour and a half before the game and get there. Coach Eck has asked for at least 10,000 Lobo fans to show up. I think that's doable, Eric. So all in all, I think it's a really good bowl game for UNM to be in.
Yeah, I will share some other news that was announced today. I don't know how this is voted out. Maybe Mac, you can shed some light on it. But Jackson Eck was voted the team MVP of the football team earlier today. He was the first defensive player to be voted team MVP since Jarek Reed was in the 2022 season. And I mean, I think that speaks volumes just to the type of impact he had on this team this year, his overall leadership, and the voice that he has in the locker room with these guys too, right? Like, not only from a coaching staff and what he does on the field, but as a leader of men on that field. So, Mac, do you know, is that like a player voted system? Have you, not sure if you would know that or not. I know it's a new
Yeah,
program,
I
but
don't know how Coach Eck runs his thing. I know that they had a banquet today, and that's when I think there was a video that was online that when they announced the bowl matchup to the team. But it's not surprising that Jackson was voted MVP. He's been there all year. He's been Mr. Steady, and I think his temperament and more than anything his intellect on the field. I don't know if I've seen a linebacker in a long time with his level of gap discipline. He just knows where the ball's going, where to be. He's not going to overpower you. He's not going to, he just knows where to be. And there's guys that have 12-year NFL careers over just knowing where the ball's going, and just being where they need to be. And that's the coach's son in him. But it's not surprising to me that he got the MVP. I mean, he was co-defensive player of the year for the Mountain West, and clearly our most outstanding player, according to the reporters and the media, and clearly his teammates agree.
Yeah. Well, I think we are going to wrap up tonight's show. We want to thank everyone for tuning in with us on the Pit Press Live on a Sunday night. Mac, always a pleasure to get you on the show. It's always nice running into you at the pit too. And congratulations again on the new baby girl.
Thank you.
But yeah, we will probably be coming to you with a preview podcast. I know Nick will probably write something previewing VCU. Lobos head out to play VCU on Wednesday night, which is another solid game for their net resume. So if they play anything like they did on Saturday, it's going to be a fun game to watch and a true road game. So I'm looking forward to that one. But Mac, Nick, Ed, any final thoughts before we let everyone go?
No, just hey, Mac, good having you on again, man. It's been a while, so thanks for bringing your level of you're behind, you're right there with the program. You get to see a lot of things, so we sure appreciate you sharing your insights. They're always appreciated. But I just want to tell Eric, to all our viewers and listeners, man, we picked up a lot more, and we appreciate every one of you. I've seen some people that I've met just at the games at random that have said, hey, we love what you're doing. So I just want to tell everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate the support.
Yeah. Nick, Mac, anything? Are you good to go?
Good to go, man. Great show. Oh, go ahead, Mac.
Yep. No, I was going to say thanks for having me on, and appreciate you guys always bringing me on board to talk about what I love so much, which is Lobo sports, Lobo basketball, Lobo football.
Yeah. Any last plugs for Lobo Alliance? Anything going on? Any projects that you want to announce to anyone viewing?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say stay tuned. There's some big announcements coming. Obviously, the push to get Jason Eck and his extension done was a big deal, but there's a lot more behind that. That's the tip of the iceberg. And obviously, continued investment and an increase in investment in football is a huge part of keeping him and the staff here, and ultimately building a roster that can continue to win 8, 9, 10 games a year. So there will be some announcements coming, but as always, if you can, now Lobo Alliance is kind of the conduit for revenue share and for compensating the players based on their name, image, and likeness. So that's through the Lobo Club. But you can also give via the first team, which is the football sports enhancement fund, or sixth man, which is the basketball and that's all on the Lobo Club front. So give if you can. If you haven't joined, hop in. We'd love to have you. There's no amount of money that's too small to continue to support the team and the progress and the success that we're having on the field and on the court.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks again for everyone tuning in, for being followers of the Pit Press, readers. We appreciate you guys. For Ed Nunez, Nick Nunez, and Mackenzie Bishop, I am Eric Moulton. Thank you guys for watching the Pit Press, and we'll come to you later this week. Have a good night.